All right. Welcome on in. Utah Blockcast. Live reaction to Utah's 31-21 win over Kansas. Man, this was an ugly one. This was lethargic. This was like you undo the belt after Thanksgiving, dinner, and you're out there to relax, and you're not, this was rough. Bennett, give me your initial reaction, dude.
I like that. I feel like the Thanksgiving. I probably don't have a quick analogy there. Can't be as quick as you there, Bartle. But you always got to enjoy a win, right? It's a win is a win. But when you see some things that are uncharacteristic, you see things maybe moving in a different direction that you'd hope for the team to be moving in as the season wears on. There's definitely some good moments of frustration here. It required Jalen Daniels to make some really big mistakes to keep Utah in that game and win that game. Yeah. I joked on X. I said, hey, I was like, Jalen Daniels gets the Utah game ball from me because, that one interception that was to absolutely nobody but Jackson Benny.
I mean, you could say that about all three of those interceptions. Yeah. Like, what are you doing throwing that ball?
Yeah. The receivers could maybe have helped him out a little bit, not too much, but like a little. That one was really rough. But it's an ugly win. It is what it is. But you're always happy to be on the right side of the win-loss column after any game. And sluggish, as you put it, to start. And honestly, sluggish all the way through. Not really surprised on a Thanksgiving week. You travel into Lawrence, Kansas. I don't think many people want to be in Lawrence, Kansas, including leave you alone. But a 10 a.m. for all intents and purposes. Your internal clock's 10 a.m. You take the win. You get out of there. You got a 10-point win.
Yeah, no, I think that sums it up really well. Right? Is like there's just so many elements about this game that we need to consider and give some grace to Utah because this is a tough game to play. Friday morning, it's an early week. It's an early game on top of that. After Thanksgiving dinner, I think obviously Utah could have used a little more stuffing out here in the run game to add another Thanksgiving pun. Add one to the board, another one to the board for me because the run defense was just, again, really, really porous. It was not great. Daniel Highshaw, LaShawn Williams combined for 211 yards on the ground. Really just had their way and did it, in a lot of ways, the way Utah's done it all season long with the combination of, Wayshawn and Nakari, kind of that inside-outside combo. That's what Kansas did tonight with Highshaw and Williams. Highshaw was the tough, inside, physical, punishing runner. And then you had Williams with the speed to get to the perimeter. So, man, Kansas did and Kansas State, on top of that, going back to last week, the two teams did what Utah's done to the previous, three teams. And so, it's a frustrating experience. And again, all things considered with this game, you understand kind of the lethargic effort. But the opportunistic chances Utah had today with Jalen Daniels making, as you said, some of the more baffling decisions with the ball is really kind of the story of the game. And Scooby Davis getting the pick six, Jackson Benny getting the late one. Those were the moments that Utah needed today to get the win. And it's something that a lot of us have talked about is Utah needing more takeaways. And they got 3 of them today, and all of them were vital to Utah's chances today to get the win. So, I understand it for fans. It's a frustrating experience, especially given, how the Colorado, Cincinnati, Baylor game maybe, but those 2 games in particular before that where Utah simply dominated. That's sort of what we became accustomed to, especially given what happened throughout the year earlier. So really concerning on the defensive side of the ball. It got a little worrisome on offense, right? It just felt disjointed. It felt disconnected. Utah would make a play. There would be a penalty. There would be a mishap. There would be a misread. But they found enough in that fourth quarter to dig out the win. And that's really the big thing here is you get out of Lawrence, which it's so cold here. Like it's freezing. I cannot wait to get out of here because it's so cold. And it's tough conditions, but Utah dug deep and made the plays in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And some of the play calling down the stretch was nice. I thought the play action was beautiful. I thought the pop pass on that RPO was beautiful. Things like that you and I have turned to each other, during games and said, like, we need more of that. We need to see more of that out of Utah. And so it feels like, the coaches are saying the same thing. You need to try that more because you're seeing more of it. And Dev's just so good at it, and it goes back to where he started the season with the quad Ds, Yep.
Yep.
Devin demands defensive discipline, and when he starts to take it like he's going to run it on you, and then all of a sudden does a little jump pass, it's just like you're in trouble because your safety's probably already bit, and you got no help. And
yeah,
yeah.
We talked to the players. I asked Devin about that play specifically, and he mentioned that that's something that they've been sitting on for a really long time, was that play specifically. We've seen the pop plays, right, over the last couple of games especially, but I'm going to go back. I'm excited to go back and watch that play, the play design, because both Dev and Kyle talked about Beck having sat on that play for a long time. And so I'm really interested to see what it looked like. But they set it up well with Devin taking, running the ball, the three previous plays to set up that action to get Kansas to bite on it. And, again, the cojones of Beck to call that play. I asked Kyle to kind of walk us through the process of coming to that decision. And Kyle told Jason, just go with the play you feel is best that will get us the first down. I trust you. Regardless of what it is, I trust you. And for that to be the play, man, that's pretty cool.
No, I love it. And it's fun. That's the stuff that makes this offense fun, unpredictable, things like that you see. I think the offense, Beck started to get into his bag a little later in the game, scored the 21 points in the fourth quarter. Would have loved to see more scoring early on, but ultimately, like when it came down to it, Kansas wasn't able to stop Utah, and Utah was able to find a few stops, and that happened.
Would be curious your thoughts. Field goal kicking, given the opportunities Utah had early in the game, with getting down to about the 35-ish yard line, if I remember correct, around that sort of territory. Like, what do you like? What's going on? Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think Utah passed on a 45-yard field goal, 46-yard field goal, and then also passed on I want to say it was like a 51, something like that. But I don't love it. I don't like passing on points. Yeah. I think that's something that if you don't pass on points and you take, you at least you trot Dylan out there against those guys on October 18th, I think the game could be a little different. So, to see us Utah still not taking field goals when they're there and helping Dylan build that confidence and helping the team build that confidence in him. We look at Dylan as somebody that gives us that seemingly infinite range, but we've never leveraged that. Utah's never leveraged that at any point this season. So would have liked to see Utah take points when they were there, especially on that first one, the 46-yarder. I thought that was well within his range.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at some point, there really needs to be, and I'll probably ask Kyle, I will ask Kyle about this, on Monday. I don't know if we're getting Kyle on Monday, actually. Maybe we do. But next opportunity we get, I'm going to ask, sort of the process and coming to these decisions to pass on the field goals because, it really puts you in a bind in this game tonight. And fortunately, Utah was able to make the plays in the fourth quarter, but we've seen it in a previous game specifically where you pass on those opportunities to add points. And I think there just needs to be greater consideration for the context of games, right? Obviously, we understand the BYU game. That's an intense rivalry. It's going to come down to a one-possession game. In this one, we talked about it, right? To open up, this was a lethargic start. All the context to consider for fans to give this team that sort of grace. There needs to be that as well with Utah in these types of games and taking advantage of opportunities to add points on the scoreboard. I know that there's a lot of pride on that side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, in terms of being confident in their ability to convert, these third, fourth down situations. There's Bill Riley giving me a shout out from up top, but no, failed today on 2 fourth down conversions, and I think you really just there needs to be a greater consideration for context of games and adding points in a tough game like this.
Yeah, and I want to say on both of those, if we talk about the analytics, on the broadcast, it said this is where you kick on both of those, I want to say. So yeah.
And to that, I know Kyle talked about it, at some point this season, but he said that Dylan struggles, from that right side. And that's where that 46-yard, the first one was from the right side. So I felt like, okay, I'll give you that. But then they had another one, which was a little bit further. I think it would have been a 52-yarder, but it was from the left side. And so I just feel like, anyways, they just take the field goal, add the points. Obviously, it's not automatic, but give the kid an opportunity, right? Dylan Curtis, he's a fantastic kicker. And we're going on a little bit too long about kicking, but there were some big plays in this game, and a couple extra field goals maybe makes this a little bit more comfortable as well. So, anyways, all right, enough about that. Pass catchers, Larry Simmons, emerging, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions. J.J. Buchanan, 2 receptions, 65 yards. Also drew a defensive pass interference. I really feel like this group, this duo of Larry Simmons, J.J. Buchanan, these are guys that have trended the right way over the final month, and I feel like are key components to Utah's passing attack as we get into the offseason and start to look ahead to next season. I think those guys really have done a lot to help their cause going into the offseason and, as we hit the final stretch of the season here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Larry Simmons it's been awesome to watch him come on and give Dampier that reliable option. Unfortunate that Ryan Davis went down because we talked for so long this season, I'd love to see just that one more guy for Damp to be able to rely on. And now he's getting that with Larry Simmons. It feels like every time Larry Simmons catches the ball, I know it's not every time, but it's just a really good catch. But it's on the sideline, a toe tap.
It's one of two things. It's either a toe tap or it's a touchdown, or it's a toe tap touchdown. It's one of those three things.
Dude just makes plays, knows where his feet are at all times, controls his body. He's come on really nicely at the end of this season, and that's been awesome to see. J.J. Buchanan, somebody who I think could actually have pretty big numbers this season. He just hasn't had the volume of targets to really put him up there into those conversations. But how many times have we seen that ball get thrown down there? It's like J.J.'s down there, and he catches the ball. That one was really hard, along those sidelines. That was a really hard one to figure.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
I felt he had the toe down when he first caught it. And then it looked like the elbow was just in. So I was shocked, actually, that they called that, they upheld that call. I feel like, honestly, the two should have been flipped.
Yeah.
The Simmons and the JJ one should have been flipped. But, hey, whatever.
So did Utah football. They, after the whole thing had passed, they posted the picture. I was texting with my brother during that, and he's like, this is too blurry to even tell. He's like, this is gonna stand. And then he's like, I do think you got it. And then no, it's funny because once Utah put that picture out, I sent that to him, and he's like, that's an amazing picture, and that tells you everything you need to know right there.
Yeah, for sure. So
get better cameras, ESPN.
Dude, that's what we were saying up in the booth. All of us on Press Row was like, what's the deal with these cameras and, with ESPN? And this was an issue back in the Pac-12 a couple years ago where it was we're looking at a game in 480p in standard definition. Shout out to standard definition. It was rough. Like it's 2025. We're going into 2026. Let's get some better cameras, huh? How about that? How's that for a takeaway? Get better cameras. Anyways, what next? Wayshawn Parker, 5 yards short of 100 on the ground, but finished with 127, I think, total. Great day for him. He was the guy that I think was trying to get Utah going, and disappointing they didn't get him to 100 on the ground though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Kyle lets him wear the pink cleats in the bowl game because he did plus 100.
Yeah, you have to. You could have handed it off to Wayshawn, and you chose to keep it in Dan Pierce's hands. That's on you. That's not Wayshawn's fault. Give him the pink cleats for another game.
If I'm Wayshawn, I'm just wearing them anyways, and you just go from there.
Yeah, but time and time again,
10 toes down.
Time and time again, Wayshawn, popped for a big play, an explosive play. He was the guy that was trying to get this offense going. And again, with how Utah managed his workload this season, it was clear that really benefited him, in this last month, because man, he was explosive. He was elusive. He was, force and missed tackles left and right. And
making big blocks.
Making big blocks, and I think keeping him fresh early in the season allowed him to play the way that he did these last couple of weeks. He's so fun to watch. He really is one of the more unique running backs with his pace of play, with how he sets things up. He's a fun one to watch.
And then just the energy on top of that, right? Like, just his smile is contagious. When I see Wayshawn smile, I want to smile. When I see Wayshawn pissed off, I get pissed. Like, he's got contagious energy, and it's been really good to see him come into his own form and really start to take things over. And I think that sets things up well for him to be that bell cow next year and run it back, and then go to the league and do your thing, dude.
Yeah, 100%. Defensively, obviously the story of the game for Utah in a positive manner, we talked about already, the 3 interceptions. You gave Jalen Daniels the game ball for Utah. Again, some of the more baffling decisions that we've seen by an opposing quarterback. Just 3 head scratchers. You don't complain, you just make the play. That's what Utah did, and Scooby took it back 97 yards for another pick 6. Smith Snowden probably would have had another if he didn't get tripped up by the turf monster. But the other side of that story, the run defense, again, another troubling, disturbing, concerning performance by Utah defending the run. Watching it, we had a unique angle with the press box. We were at an angle, from the back left corner of the end zone was our view for the field. And so we got a better perspective of the movement that Kansas was generating, and they were just getting movement, a lot of horizontal movement, and creating, lanes for their running backs to move. Utah really needs to figure out how to become more stout. They've always prided themselves on getting knockback, where you're not necessarily being pushed back a yard. You're staying at 0. You're getting, -1. You're getting a yard of pushback on the offensive line. Utah wasn't able to do that again this week. Kansas just had their way moving Utah's defensive line, to create creases, and that's a big concern. So I think, fortunately the season's over. You have a bowl game, but I mean, you potentially still have more. Obviously, you have more opportunities coming, but going into the offseason, I think Utah's really got to figure out what they're doing with the defensive tackle room specifically. You've got a lot of young pups. There's a lot of optimism about this group and what they can become, but need to figure out what you're doing there up front to improve against the run next season and bowl game or playoff or whatever.
Yeah, no, and that D tackle spot I feel like has had like a really tough year. It was already kind of a thinner position coming into the season, and then it's like every week there's some kind of different injury or multiple injuries to the room. So it's like never really had like that, like, hey, here's our dudes, here's our rotation, here's our rhythm, things like that. And I think that we can afford some of that as we get into next year, but also probably add in there a little bit, right? Definitely a position to spotlight.
For sure. And, when the defense, it all starts up front. When the defensive line isn't controlling the line of scrimmage, it makes things tough for everybody else. Linebackers don't have the vision. They don't have the pathway. They don't have the freedom of space to get downhill sometimes. Safeties, it clogs up their vision of what's happening behind the line of scrimmage. And so, it's really going to be important for Utah to address this, obviously, for whatever is next and what comes in the future, but need to get back to controlling the line of scrimmage up front. That's a must. So that's one thing. And then again, just the tackling. Tackling was another disappointing effort today. They eventually got it, where they were more fundamentally sound tackling in the second half, but still way too many broken tackles. Utah gave up too many big plays, and credit to Kansas for making them. But Utah, we know the standard at Utah on that defense side of the ball. There's a lot of pride. They've got to figure things out going in, again, to the offseason and all this stuff ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it's weird to say, but probably like a month and 3 days until Utah plays another game of football. So see what kind of adjustments they're able to make in that meantime with some of those extra practices and things like that. But certainly an area that would be the biggest concern if Utah was getting ready to go into like a playoff or a conference championship game, which could still happen. Don't get me wrong, could still happen. Yeah. Still a lot of things to root for, but most likely, and this is one of the questions that came up in the chat, Austin Anderson said, obviously we're hoping for a Big 12 conference championship game berth, but what is our most likely bowl game if we don't get there? Alamo would be the next in that pecking order for Utah, and then
I think it's
Vegas and then Holiday, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's a combination of those three.
Yeah, and can bowls still go up or down one spot in the standings? Like Alamo can take Big 12 number 2. Could they take number 3?
Yeah, they could. Yeah, they have that choice. Yep.
I think Alamo's probably where Utah ends up, Austin. The BYU played in that game last year. BYU's probably going to be on the outside of the college football playoff. If they're in, then Utah's probably a lock for the Alamo Bowl. Yeah. If they're out, though, BYU did just go to San Antonio last year. They might opt for a fresh team, and that's where Utah would come in. And you'd hope that Utah can draw somebody like USC with Lincoln Riley. It gives some kind of juice to that matchup and gives something for the guys to rally around.
I'd be curious people's thoughts, Utah's fans' thoughts on this, but the potential of the Alamo Bowl, where you get more of a premier matchup potentially against a USC, or would you prefer a December 31st Las Vegas Bowl against a Big Ten opponent? Obviously closer to home, travel a little bit easier. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out, but those are probably the most likely destinations for Utah.
Yeah, for me, it's tough. I'd probably lean the selfish route and say Vegas, just because that's
100.
easy trip. There'll be a lot of friends there, a lot of fun. Vegas, New Year's, like.
Yep, 100.
Get me in trouble.
So, yeah.
But obviously a good. And you're still playing a Big Ten opponent. It's not like you're playing somebody from the ACC or something like that. The
Vegas Bowl isn't what it was. It's improved quite a bit, I think, in bowl reputation. Obviously, December 31st game now as well, so that's pretty big. But yeah, I think those are probably the most likely for sure.
Yeah.
I want to wrap this thing up because I'm cold.
I bet.
Do we have any other any other questions we can run through?
One more that I think we should touch. There's some other questions, and I know I'm going to run a space tonight, so we'll talk on that, and we can maybe bookmark some of these for our podcast on Sunday. But I think this would be a good one while you're there, while you're freezing. Nick said, F1 Nick said, how's their new stadium, Bartle? And I'm curious too, so I just figured while you're there, what, obviously empty, but talk to us about the facilities.
Yeah, no, it's really impressive. At least this half. This is the half.
Phase one.
Phase one. They're actually going to tear down this part. I think pretty soon here. They were telling us that this is the last media availability in their press room, in the visiting press room. They're going to tear down this side of the stadium and redo that. But really impressive, for Kansas. And here I can kind of give you a panoramic on the stadium here. Just go back. So they're going to tear down this section over here, but then you've got all this. And I'll say this much: it was that fourth quarter. Kansas had just scored. Utah took over possession. Fans had left. There weren't a lot of people in here. I don't know how it was as loud as it was, but it was really loud in those final minutes with the 1,000 fans. I'll give them 1,500, maybe 1,500 fans that were here. It still got pretty loud. And overall, it's nice. The press box was nice. It's small. It's not made for double wide people like me. But not everybody is a double wide. And so, it's fine. It's really nice. They've certainly upgraded some things. It's impressive. And I think once this is all done, it'll probably be one of the more impressive stadiums in the Big 12 for sure.
Nice. That's about it. I know you want to get out of the cold. My quick closing thoughts are 10 wins in the regular season for the first time since 2019. That's awesome.
Big time.
5-2 is where Utah sat on October 18th. And we said, hey, win 5 games in a row, finish at 10-2, let the cards fall how they fall. And at the end of the day, you can't be too upset with that. And you can't, to win 5 games in a row. It's a bummer. You'd like to have this game or that game back, this possession, this ineligible man downfield, whatever. To not lay flat and for the team to stick together and win 5 games in a row to finish 10-2 is going to pay dividends in this hell month of December that we are about to go through, because it's transfer portal season. It is going to the draft season. It's poaching season. It's all of the things all in one. And for Utah to be on a positive note right now, it's going to do big things. So I'm excited to see what the team does in the month of December. Excited to see what the postseason looks like, and and everything that's to come. But it feels a lot better to be talking about a Utah team that's ending on a high note, as opposed to, hey, just ended a 7-game losing streak so we could get to 5-7.
Yeah,
who's our offensive coordinator?
That's a great point to end on. I'll add this much. I hope everybody really takes the time to appreciate what Utah did this season, just to kind of echo your sentiments. Obviously, to be 5-7 last year, 7-game losing streak. We remember, I hope that Utah fans remember how frustrating that experience was. I hope it's still fresh on the mind of people, that it isn't too far forgotten, because, this team deserves a lot of credit for turning things around this offseason. And I think Devin Dampier, I'm talking with my hands really well right now. Devin Dampier, I think, was really important in that, in sort of turning the vibes, bringing a fresh confidence. And, we can pick apart these guys' games, how they execute, how they perform at times, but these guys deserve a ton of credit for bringing a positive outlook to Utah football again, right? Trending the right way, finishing the season with 10 wins is huge for Utah, to your point, because of what comes in the offseason. And, to kind of regain the belief and hope, and to give the fan base just fun experiences, right? We remember how much of a grind 2024 was. It was grueling. It was difficult. There wasn't a lot of joy. And, this is an entertainment product as much as it is, anything else. And everybody wants to be entertained. And I think Utah, obviously they came up short in 2 really crucial games, and that's disappointing. But overall, 10 wins and the amount of joy that this team brought this fan base, I think they deserve a lot of credit for riding the ship in the offseason and coming out here and finishing the season strong. So, yeah, just to echo your sentiment, I think you hit the nail on the head. Appreciate what Utah did this season. Yes, there's a lot of little details and little things that we can pick apart, and we should pick apart because that's going to help Utah move forward. But enjoy this year, have fun, and, this weekend you've got the game out of the way. It's 3:45 Friday afternoon. Hit the couch, spread eagle, clothed or not clothed, as Kyle Whittingham said in his post-game press conference today, and enjoy yourself. So that's it. I'll go ahead. I'll wrap this one up. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna go get warm, and we'll see y'all on the other side.
Appreciate y'all.